Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. I sound worse than I feel. Everyone got sick here. It's been hence the lack of videos the last few days. Just dealing with chaos. But anyhow, I started making these cards before the sickness erupted, using the Simon Says Stamp Yarn Love stamp set. And I just took scraps of Simon's Smooth White cardstock. I save all my scraps because I make use out of them. I've mentioned this before. They're perfect for, die cutting sentiments or stamping sentiments or things like this where I have multiple images. So I just use these strips of cardstock to stamp just this ball of yarn many times. I had when I first started, I had a rough idea of what I was doing. So I wanted to make sure I had enough to do like a rainbow of balls of yarn and then a stamped extra one just in case, because you never know. So I just had the stamp in my MISTI, stamped it with Simon's Intense Black ink, and then I kept moving the strip of cardstock down, restamping, move it down, restamp, and just keep doing this over and over again till I have just these strips of cardstock with the image stamped on them. So started with that. And then for the coloring, I'm using my Spectrum Noir TriBlends that I have been using for the last, it's been a couple months now. I've really been enjoying them. Again, the biggest reason, because the convenience. I love that I grabbed one marker and I have a light, medium, dark. I'm good to go. And for those that might not be aware, I do have a playlist of all the videos that I've done so far using these markers. And I'll have that linked at the end of this video if you want to check them out, if you've missed any, etc. Right this moment in the video, this is real time. Like, I don't color near as fast as the magic of video editing, like right now, makes it look. Sometimes it'd be oh frick. If I could clean my house this fast, how nice would that be? Honestly. Anyway, I do my just basic coloring, dark, medium, light. Super, super simple. And like I'd mentioned earlier, I'm going to do a rainbow of these because who doesn't love a good rainbow? So I went a little more traditional rainbow color, or standard, I don't know what you want to call it. Usually I do like pink, aqua, like just the lighter sort of shades that I'm more drawn to. But for this one, I mostly stuck with your red, orange, yellow, green, and then the blue, I did switch it up a little bit. For this orange, I'm just using a regular Spectrum Noir TriBlend. I do prefer the brush tips. I've mentioned this as well. It's a personal preference. Like, I don't like bullet nibs on markers. They annoy me. That's really what it is. They just annoy me. But for some of the colors, I don't have them in a brush nib. Like, they're not available. And I have them all. Because, again, you guys know me. I need to have all the colors and all the things. It's just what works for me. It's not even what works. I just need to. I just need to. So, red, orange, yellow, green, just like so. I'll have links to all of the markers, of course, the sets. The lighter gray barrels are the brush tip ones. The ones with black barrels are the bullet nibs. Same formula. Everything's interchangeable in a sense, I don't know why what the reasoning is having the different types, if that makes sense. But they all work the same. They all color grade. I've been happy with them. So, like I said, for the blue, instead of doing like a true blue, I should have, but I always lean more towards like an aqua shade of blue. I like it more. So that's what I did with this one versus doing more of a true blue. And then the last one was purple. And then, like I said, I had one extra stamp because there was space and it was kind of a just in case thing, because it's like, if I managed to mess one up, got another one stamped, it's good to go. So after I did all the coloring, I'm going to die cut all of these. That took it didn't take very long, since the wafer die was super easy to line up, etc. The thing to note with this specific stamp set, there are 2 die sets for it. because it's a huge stamp set and there's a lot of images. So they separated the die sets into 2 different sets. There's a die set for the images and there's a die set for the sentiments. So people can kind of pick and choose. Y'all know I would always go for both. I prefer the wafer dies for all the things, but it does make it easier to, you know, choose what you want to use or forego the dies completely. That works fine too. So I die cut everything. I set it aside. For my backgrounds, I'm using the chunky knit stencil, and I have my stamp and stick mat with the stencil buddy on it. That's just the like perimeter, so it just has that A2 card opening, and then smooth white cardstock, and then the stencil, I just attached it with a bit of PIXIE tape. There are notches in that little stencil buddy that will hold the stencil, but I wanted to be able to flip the stencil up like this because I was like, I think I can get away with doing 2 at once. Because I don't have a second stencil buddy, and I'm going to have to. I just, the more I've been using these stick and stamp mats, I've been loving them. They just make my life convenient, you know? But yeah, I only have the one stencil buddy. I need to get another one. But because I was doing it like this just worked. I used my Pouncers for adding all the ink to these backgrounds. And since I'm doing the pouncing and not like blending with a brush, nothing is moving. Because like if I was using a brush, I would have to hold down like the cardstock because, you know, it's going to move. But I just use my little paper Pouncers to add the ink, and I'm going to go in rainbow order. And I'm using Simon's Positively Saturated Inks. And I start with yellow. Always depends, but if it's a background sort of a thing, anything like that, I always start with yellow because yellow, being the lightest color, is the easiest one to get contaminated. And I don't want to pick up other colors like on my tools or, you know, get them into my ink pad, etc. So I always start with yellow, and then I just work my way out and we're good to go. So I used citrine for the yellow, and then I do mandarin for my orange. And each time I just reline up the second piece of cardstock because I did enough to do 2 cards because, again, why not when you've got the supplies out? Let's do more than one. And it worked. If the stencil was more intricate, it would just depend. This was easy to line back up because it wasn't even really necessarily lining it up with the stencil pattern. It was just lining up that second piece of cardstock with the first piece. So I would just line them up and then add my color, remove that piece, do it to the exact same thing to the second piece of cardstock. So it just made, hopefully, like, if seeing it on screen, my fever brain is like, are you really making sense? But yeah, hopefully that makes sense more than, you know, my jumble of words. So citrine for the yellow, mandarin for the orange, cherry for the red, fairway for the green, ocean for the aqua sort of blue, and then amethyst for the purple. And I just did it in sort of diagonal stripes and just pounce the color on. And then I would always kind of go a little bit past where I applied the color with just whatever was left on the Pouncers. There's not much ink really stays on them. It just goes on the paper. But I would kind of go a little bit past towards the next color, just for give it that little bit of a blend. And then I originally was going to take all these same ink colors and just blending brushes to add to the background. You could leave it as is. The colors of the stencil pattern in the rainbow on white cardstock looks fabulous. Love it. But I wanted to add solid color as well, just to kind of finish it off. And instead of using blending brushes, I was like, let's try it with the Pouncers. I've never done any like actual blending of colors because that's not what these are meant for. But I was like, since I'm just adding color on top of the stencil pattern, I'm not super worried about like a proper blend. If I want to like do a blended background like I've done a million times in videos, I'll use my blending brushes for that. But it works for this. I was impressed. I just used a lighter touch. And you can see I keep kind of pouncing off a little bit of the ink at first. I would pounce the pouncer into the ink pad and then pounce it onto just the stencil buddy, just that plastic there first, just to take off some of that, first initial bit of ink. And then I would start applying it to the cardstock. And same thing as before, I would go a little bit past with each color, like a little bit further into the next color with whatever was left on the sponge. so that they would kind of do just a bit of a natural blend. And I worked my way back and forth doing the same thing I did when the stencil was in place. I would just put the piece of cardstock on there, add the color, remove it, continue to add the same color in the same spot, and then just work my way throughout the whole rainbow. So it makes the actual stencil pattern, it softens it a bit, it makes it more subtle, but that's also what I wanted. I didn't want it to be super, super obvious, because this is just a background. And then my stencil buddy, like always, I just rinse it off in water. Whatever rinses off comes off in the sink, and then I let it air dry and everything's good to go. If there's any staining, doesn't matter, but it stays sticky, everything's good. So I set those backgrounds aside, and then I die cut some white cardstock with one of Simon's basic stitched rectangle wafer dies, and I'm stamping one of the sentiments from the Yarn Love set. And that's, I think, another reason why I love it, because it's got like some punny, little sentiments, and you guys know I love punny sentiments. And this one, of course, just got to me because it's like, oh, knit. I forgot your birthday. I was like, this is perfect. I love it. It's cute. It's got that little pun, and it just works. So I stamped the sentiments onto those cardstock panels and set those aside. The insides of the cards, I debated on what I was going to, I was like, should I do the stencil again? Because, a lot of times I show that. I'll just do the stencil just a little bit lighter than what I do for the card front. But instead, I decided to stamp all those yarn bars with those same inks. So I've just got the stamp on an acrylic block, and then I just clean it in between the colors with my little Studio Caudia. I've shown this in other videos. My little microfiber heart-shaped stamp cleaner, doohickey. I forget the actual name of it. There's a link. But I have it. One side is sprayed with stamp cleaner, and then the other side is nothing. So I just wipe it, flip it over, and then wipe off the cleaner off the stamp, and then go on to the next color. And again, I start with yellow, because if I, miss any ink or anything like that, I don't contaminate my yellow ink pad. I don't worry about colors getting into any of the other ink pads, because 99% of the time it doesn't matter. It just kind of gets absorbed and you don't see it, and it's all good to go. So that's all I did for the insides. And then for the card fronts, I die cut the stenciled rainbow backgrounds with another of the larger stitch rectangle wafer dies. I just thought the stitch rectangles, they just kind of added, it was just that little extra something, because it's like knitting, stitching, So I put Simon's Big Mama foam tape on the back of those panels to give everything just a little bit of dimension, nothing too crazy. And then I stacked all this rainbow of yarn onto each of these just using craft tacky glue. And of course in rainbow order again. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So just kind of tucked them in here and there until I got them adhered the way I wanted. Just kind of thought it would just look cute. Just this fun little rainbow pile of yarn. And it's actually something I want to do in like my craft space at some point, is go through all my yarn and like actually roll everything up properly. I never do that, but it makes life easier. And then also having like a little stack of them, in rainbow order would be so cute. I love it. Anyway, once they were adhered, I'm going to add a little bit of bling, not a ton, but a little bit, because you gotta have some. So these are some Trinity Stamps milk glass embellishments. Very pretty. They're not as in your face as some of the other embellishments. They're just pretty. They don't look like a whole lot on video, but when you tilt it in the light, they've just got that pretty shimmer to them, and they're not solid opaque, but they're a little bit like they're milk glass. They're just fun. I love it. So that finished off the cards. Like I mentioned earlier, I will have a link at the end of this video to my playlist with other videos using these markers. And then, of course, I'll have a link below the video to my blog post and a supply list with all the links of the supplies I used if you want to check that out if you're interested. Thank you all so very much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. And I will see you all very soon in the next one. Bye.